Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva, Michael William Denney, the Thunder Wizard, and I wanted to share with you some more teaching that has come to me from my higher self, my source emanation, who goes by the name of Mahadeva. And recently, in December, we had a very powerful alignment in the cosmos where a bunch of planets all came together in the sign of Sagittarius. And many of those planets, two in particular, Ketu and Jupiter, which are very, very spiritual planets. And when you bring them together, it's like life changing spirituality. These two planets were centered in the nakshatra, which is vibrationally aligned with the center of our galaxy. And the center of our galaxy is a black hole. And every 18 years, Ketu, the south node of the moon, aligns with that. And when that happens, every 18 years, there is a huge earth shattering event of some kind that gives humans in this timeline an opportunity to shift their frequency to a higher resonance. And so we are in one of those times again. And it happened in, as I said, in December. And what I did was I officially adopted my spiritual name, which I had known for a while. I received it in a dream. And after having then looked at my chart and seeing from a Vedic astrological perspective that that was a very powerful spiritual name for me based on my ascendant, because I was ready to surrender. I've got a video about it where I surrendered to all kinds of things. And one of the ways I was showing that was by adopting this extremely powerful name of Mahadeva, which means the great God or the powerful light. And it's one of the names of Shiva. And I took it on so that my essence in my life would raise to that level. And that my teaching would also raise its vibration to that level. And so I've already shared about it, but a couple of days ago, I was out in this incredibly beautiful ocean over here, and I was swimming and body surfing, and I was thinking about all this stuff, and I got downloaded some information, and I received an invitation from my source self, Mahadeva, and I had this understanding about how multiple timelines work, and a recipe to learn how to reunite with what I'm calling the source timeline or the mother timeline. So I just, at this stage of the game, I still feel like I, as Michael, need to come in and introduce you to my higher self, who's going to come and do the teaching, and that is Mahadeva. And as I've said before, I'm not going to do anything strange. He's going to look and sound exactly like me. He is in me. He is part of me. I'm going to be fully involved in everything that's happening, but I'm going to simply surrender to that higher self of mine and let him do the teaching, having to do with reincarnation and timelines and adjusting our frequency. So I'm going to let him come through and do the teaching. Hi, this is Mahadeva, and I am here to share with you information having to do with timelines. Michael has intuited from me for a while now what timelines are. Now, to be completely transparent, the information that I've given to him, he has shared with you faithfully, although he himself hasn't fully understood it. And now I have given him a deeper understanding, and I'm going to share that with you. Because he was struggling trying to understand, how does this all come together? I mean, what does this all mean? And I know what I'm teaching is the truth, but there's got to be a way to unify this. And so, because he has done so much work on himself recently, and because we are in a nexus period where all of the timelines are converging right now, and the human race in this timeline has a huge opportunity. And that's true with all timelines, by the way. But in this timeline for you, you have a huge opportunity to adjust your frequency to jump to the next level, to jump to the next timeline. And this happens in your experience, it happens every 18 years. And we've just come into the effects of that, which you are now experiencing. It's a worldwide pandemic. And so the whole world is focused on what's important. Now, people will respond differently based on how they choose to believe and how they choose to adjust their frequency, which is, Michael will focus on belief and actions, but it's really about adjusting your frequency, because you have an ideal frequency in your source timeline that you have an opportunity to surrender to and align yourself to that during this nexus phase that you're now experiencing. So let me back up a little bit and let me share with you how this all works. All right, so you experience yourself as a soul incarnated in human flesh on this planet Earth, and you experience time, you experience birth and death, you experience reincarnation in a linear fashion in this timeline. Now, this is only one of infinite timelines. And as Michael has told you, and even he himself didn't quite understand it until I've come and shared it with him, but there is a perfect timeline. Now, what Michael didn't understand, which he now does, is that perfect timeline is what is known as the source timeline, or the mother timeline. And that is because that is your truest essence, your base of operations, if you will. The essence of your soul that is most deeply you is in the source timeline. So let me explain to you how it works. So when your soul came into existence, when it comes to incarnating, you didn't incarnate into one body. You didn't just, the way Michael has been describing it, he's right, but he was only operating from one timeline. He was teaching from this timeline, and now he's gotten to a place where I can raise him to a level where he can see on multiple timelines now. So, bear with him, because he's going through a big shift right now. He's really doing a lot to adjust to all this, and it's been quite a ride for him recently. But anyway, let me get to it. So the way this works is, your soul came into existence and incarnated into infinite timelines simultaneously. And it was like the Big Bang. So when your soul decided to incarnate in physical reality, it exploded into infinite timelines and infinite directions. And so each one of those individual timelines I'm going to refer to as a fragment, a soul fragment. And don't get me wrong, because that sounds limiting, but I have to explain it in three-dimensional terms so you can understand it. But the truth is that every single one of those soul fragments has the capacity to experience all of the source timeline and the mother timeline. So don't feel like, oh, I'm just this limited fragment. No, that's not at all, because you live in a hologram. And the way Michael has explained it, as he has an experience when he was a little boy, and his mother had one of those in his house. They had one of those crystal chandeliers where you could take off the, each individual crystal, and then you could polish it. And his mother used to take off the crystal and polish it. And he remembers picking up one of those crystals and looking at it, and he could see through all of the facets, the whole room. So he could see the whole room from multiple angles just by looking through one of the facets. And he'd turn it around and look through it in a different facet and see the whole room again in a different way, the light coming into all the different facets. That's what it's like. So even here now, you're experiencing this as a fragmentary period. By the way, there are a few people here in this timeline where this is their mother timeline. This is their source timeline. You will experience them as bodhisattvas or highly advanced souls. And that's just because they're in their highest frequency, and their highest frequency is in this timeline. For the rest of you, you're a fragmentary timeline, and your source timeline is somewhere else. And so the soul exploded into infinite timelines, and then what ends up happening is that each fragmentary soul in each of those timelines has the opportunity to learn and grow, and it does so by adjusting its frequency. And this is done through your intuition. And through your intuition, and that's going to be different. A lot of people, get mistaken on what their intuition is. So a lot of you think you're listening to your intuition, and you're listening to what Michael would call your unconscious garbage. And that's okay. It's part of the process. Now, he's going to get annoyed with you, and he's going to point that out to you, but that's because he's still working through his unconscious garbage, and so he's projecting onto you his own desire for his own awareness. So you can't take it personally, but he is very intuitive, and he's very sharp. So when he does come at you, and he does point out what's going on and what your unconscious thinking is and what he's right most of the time. Sometimes he's wrong, but over 90% of the time he's right. So listen to him when he says that. So what you want to do is adjust your frequency to the frequency of if you want to call it the master timeline, the source timeline. That is done through your intuition. Your intuition is best tapped into through meditation or energy work. This is why Michael doesn't know this, but this is why he teaches energy work. Why he became an energy master was because he was really wanting to adjust his frequency to me, his master soul essence, which is who I am, Mahadeva. So you have your own. Now, what ends up happening is that the soul explodes into infinite timelines, and then many of those timelines, very quickly, the soul fragment will adjust its frequency, and it will get closer to the mother timeline, to the master soul frequency for itself. And then it no longer needs to be in that timeline. So imagine, it's the timelines are out like this, and they just start jumping closer and closer towards the center timeline. There really isn't a center timeline. It just feels that way. Because what your soul wants to do in all of these different fragments is experience infinity. So it's going to want to jump from different extremes. And so when it experiences different extremes, like a really horrible, evil experience, it's going to want to jump out of that very quickly. And if it goes too far into into the other direction, where it goes into overindulging into something and finds out, that's meaningless, then it adjusts back. So there's this constant, the adjustment of the frequency of all of the soul fragments is like music. It's going back and forth, trying to get to the mother soul timeline, the soul frequency. Michael's brain is having a hard time comprehending what I'm giving it. I'm giving him this download, and he's having a hard time explaining it. So just bear with him as he understands this. So your job is to adjust your frequency. Notice I've been repeating the word frequency over and over again. Now, this was news to Michael because he really wanted to focus on actions. And he's not wrong, because actions change your frequency. And when it comes to the law of attraction, here's the thing that he's been searching for. So he's been, every time Michael teaches from himself, what he's doing is he's either coming from something that he's got mastery of, or it's something he himself is trying to understand. And so he teaches from that perspective, why he's, that's what makes him so interesting to watch, is that he's struggling to figure it out himself, and he's ranting and raving as he's figuring it out, and you get to watch, and you get to learn by watching him learn. But he's been focusing on action. He's right. Action changes your frequency. Now, what the law of attraction has taught is that if you align your vibration to the vibration of, positive or negative, then you will attract that to you. Now, Michael has been frustrated with that, and he hasn't really understood why. I mean, he's right about a lot of the judgments he has about it, and he has a lot of judgments about it. But he's right about it. But what he didn't understand was that the law of attraction isn't 100% off. It's just backwards. And that instead of trying to vibrate on a certain level in order to attract something to you, you actually need to do the opposite. You need to adjust your frequency so that you will be attracted to the source frequency. What the law of attraction, the assumption, the false assumption that it makes, which is understandable, because the people who have seen that law in the universe and tried to interpret it are operating from the assumption that there's only one timeline. And so it's a narcissistic understanding. And so when you think that you're the center of this and there's just one timeline, then you want to attract things to you. But what you should be doing is adjusting yourself so that you will be attracted to the source timeline, because that's where all of your desires are met. In your source timeline, all of your desires are completely fulfilled. So much so that in the master timeline, if wherever your master timeline is, you're spending the majority of your time in meditation, because there isn't anything anymore in the three-dimensional realm that you have a lot of attachment to. Now, if you're still in a physical body, there are still things you're going to have, things you're going to want to do. In order to, you're still going to have some desires you're going to want to experience. And when you have experienced, Michael is right, when you've experienced all of your desires in that source timeline, then you will phase out of existence. What he didn't understand is that there's different source timelines. So the people in this timeline that you are experiencing who have achieved it are the ones that have been on the mountaintops, and you hear the stories about them, where they've gone into meditation and then they've achieved a vibrational frequency, and then they've phased out of existence. And the only thing left is hair and fingernails. That is somebody whose all of his or her soul fragments had then aligned, and they're only in one timeline now, which is their source timeline. And this is a source timeline for many people. And if this is your source timeline, which is a possibility, then your job is to adjust your frequency, and then you do have to attract your other soul fragments to you. But you'll have the same experience. The same experience is that you're trying to adjust your frequency and attract yourself to it, not the other way around. Okay? I'll give more information to Michael, and he'll talk more and more about this, because he's making a bunch of mental notes on this, and it's driving him crazy. He really wants to get into that. But for right now, you don't need to worry about that. What you need to worry about is that, actually, the truth is you don't need to worry about anything. You will eventually accomplish your unification. It's just a matter of time. So, reincarnation. I promised I would tell you about reincarnation. Reincarnation happens on two different levels. One is the fragmentary soul in any particular timeline reincarnates in a linear fashion in your experience of time, which of course is an illusion. And each successive life in each successive timeline is an opportunity to readjust the frequency. And so you're born a different sex, in a different culture, in a different language, a different time, all that kind of stuff. And all of the other choices that you make are ways for you to try to adjust the frequency. The way you experience it is that your soul is trying out different things it wants to experience. So the desire is to have an experience. And part of that desire is to overcompensate. Part of it is to go, I want to take that experience to its extreme. And I know that that's not ultimately where I'm going to go, but I just want to get it out of my system. And in other ones, you want to go in the other extreme where you have very challenging, difficult lifetimes. A lot of you listening to me are in one of those. That was a choice that you made because you're playing with the frequency. Now, if you want to get out of that, if you want to get out of that negative experience that you're having, if you're having poverty or illness or sadness or emotional difficulties or mental difficulties or, whatever pain you're going through, then the way to adjust your frequency is to focus on what Michael teaches. He's right on the money about this. Focus on trusting the universe. I promise you, the universe wants nothing but your happiness. And the universe will co-sign whatever experience you choose to have. So if you choose to indulge in what Michael would call victim mentality, you can do that. We have no problem with that. Knock yourself out. You'll get tired of it. Trust me, you'll get tired of it. And all you have to do is just stop and just go, you know what? Okay, I'm done. I'm done, and I'm going to trust. Understand that trusting the universe is a risk. That, the idea of faith, that's where the idea of religious faith comes from, although it's been warped and misunderstood. But faith is nothing else than just trusting that the universe, the energy of what Mike would call life force energy, that energy wants to nourish you and give you happiness and success and everything that you want. So that in itself, choosing to adopt that belief immediately changes your frequency. Now you've been stuck in a different frequency for a long time, so it may take some discipline to keep choosing to believe that. Michael is also correct in that you must take action. Action is the discipline that you take in order to keep adjusting the knob. So if, for instance, your discipline is to do yoga every morning at 4:30 in the morning, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, in case Michael didn't teach you this, there is a vibration that happens, generally speaking, around 4:30 in the morning before the sun comes up. There is a frequency that can be experienced as the sun, which has a strong connection to your soul. The sun will adjust. There's a reason why people do sun gazing, although don't do that because it's not healthy for your eyes unless you're taught by somebody how to do it. But you can adjust your frequency based on aligning with the vibration of the sun. This is why the Gayatri mantra that Michael just uploaded a video on is seen as the mantra for enlightenment, because the sun has a frequency that helps you adjust to the frequency of your soul. It's very powerful. So if you decide to do that, let's say your discipline is to get up at 4:30 every morning and to do yoga and meditation and to chant the Gayatri mantra, then that discipline, that action of doing that technique is you adjusting the frequency just a little bit every day. And the adjustment of that frequency will get you there. And if you're able to adjust that frequency in this fragment timeline, in this particular incarnation, in this linear incarnation mode, then boom, you will have unified that, and this timeline for you will disappear, and you will have moved over closer to the mother timeline. And as I said before, when all of those fragmentary soul timelines and the souls in each timeline adjust its frequency enough, then the master soul essence, which you perceive as your higher self, becomes completely unified, and then it's got all of its parts, it's got all of its self, and then it has its enlightenment explosion, which is really something to behold. Now, I have not achieved that yet. I am very close. Michael is very close to his linear fragmentary soul alignment. He's very close to that. This isn't his. This is not his source timeline. And you really need to understand something about him. He really downplays it. But I have to tell you, this has been one of the most challenging lifetimes he's ever lived. And he rose to the occasion. And it's, in his credit, yes, but also, he didn't really have much of a choice. The pain that he was enduring and had been enduring for a few different lifetimes, because he's very impatient. He really wants to reunite. And so he's been choosing, in between, lifetimes, he chooses to take on more lessons so that he can get there faster. But he's worked really hard in this particular lifetime, and he doesn't talk about it a lot, but trust me, the pain that he's endured is a lot more than many of you can imagine. Some of you can, and some of you have even experienced more, but this is why he has no patience for people who, as he calls it, indulge in victim mentality. Because he saw very early on that that wouldn't get anywhere for him. And so he chose, under unbearable conditions, to trust the universe and to believe in himself. And that is really what started guiding him to the different disciplines that he teaches. The spirit fighting disciplines and the yogic disciplines and the mantra disciplines. All of those things he teaches were the actions that he was taking to adjust his frequency. And he's getting close. He's getting very close. I myself, you want to know about me, Mahadeva, in my source timeline. In my source timeline, I have two more fragmentary souls to reunite to me. And one of them is Michael. And the other one is Mina, which is a feminine soul fragment in another timeline. And she's pretty amazing as well. So when I have when those two have adjusted their frequency, and I'm now focusing on both of them and helping them, when I've reunited with both of them, then I'm going to have my master soul reunification experience. So that's why I'm doing this. So now I get to talk to you about the second aspect of reincarnation. So the first aspect of reincarnation is the fragmentary soul in a particular timeline incarnating linearly from one life to the next. The other incarnation experience is the one that I'm having right now as a master soul essence, which is that I am jumping timelines. And I've now jumped into this timeline because Michael has become conscious. When you look at that video of him, and he is telling you that he's adopting his spiritual name, he didn't realize it. I mean, he tells you that, you can tell the way he talks about it, that he feels that it's a big deal, and he was a little afraid to do it. He was actually a lot afraid to do it. But what ended up happening is that he then adjusted his frequency to me. And so every time you call him by that name, when you call Michael by my name, Mahadeva, you align him to me. So you do him a favor every time you do that. And every time he comes on here and he says, hello, this is Mahadeva, he's aligning, he's adjusting his frequency to me so that he can get closer, and the phone agrees, so that he can get closer to his ultimate experience. Now, he was slated to be in this timeline for one more lifetime after this. But we'll see. He has an opportunity to speed it up, and this can be his last timeline, his last lifetime in this timeline if he wants. But that's up to him. I'm not going to force that on him. In any case, I hope I've explained that to you, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to share with you all this information. And there's a lot more information coming. But just to recap, Michael wants a recap. So I'm going to recap it for him. Maybe it'll be helpful for you. When your soul came into, when it came into, sorry, he's really wanting to come through right now and finish this video up. So just hang on, Michael. You'll get your chance. When your soul came into manifestation in incarnated form, it exploded into infinite timelines. And all those timelines, many of them, each soul fragment started to make the choice to align itself towards trust in the universe. And then each one of those timelines, disappeared for it. And it started moving closer and closer to the source timeline in the center. And so each time that you move into and you jump timelines into another timeline, you become, from the perspective of the people around you, you become more spiritually aware. You have a spiritual awakening. You have an awakening experience. You become woke, So those are very real things. When somebody's going through their life and all of a sudden they have this experience of like, I just woke up. What's happening is that they've adjusted their frequency and another one of their soul fragments aligned with them. And they have more soul power, more soul experience. There's a reason why Michael is so healthy. There's a reason why he has all this power and this energy on a physical level. He's getting close. So that's the first thing that happens. And then you, in each one of these timelines, you incarnate in a linear fashion, and you're again incarnating to adjust the frequency towards your source soul essence, your master soul essence. When you get close to achieving that, your master soul essence then does its own incarnation, which it will jump timelines. It will jump and incarnate into you. And so you can unify with your higher self. And this is what many teachers, this is why many teachers, there's one in particular that Michael has a hard time with, and he's a very popular one on YouTube. And what Michael is sensing, because he can see, this is the problem, he can see that there's a human being in there who is interacting with his higher self that has jumped timelines. And it bothers him because he can see the human underneath it. And it bothers him that all of the students only see the higher self. And this is something he has to learn. He has to get used to this because this is about to happen with him. If he continues on the path that he's on, at some point his students will see him as me. You will just see Mahadeva. You won't see, the human aspect of Michael as much. Those of you who are more advanced will, but a lot of you, especially as more and more people come to his channel, which is going to explode, they're only going to see me. And so they'll have a higher expectation of Michael, and that's his false humility. He has to allow that to happen. He has to allow himself to align with his master teacher essence, which he's been struggling with because, he tells you all the time, he doesn't like false teachers. He doesn't like frauds, but that's his false ego. He's almost there. So continue to give him, all that positive energy. Continue to, when you call him by my name, you bring me into his aura and you bring more of me into the teaching. So, and it's good for him because it aligns him. It helps him adjust his frequency to me. So I hope I explained everything. Again, I can only deal with as much brain power as Michael has. and sometimes he gets a headache because it's too much. So I'm toning it down. Last time I came through, it gave him he had quite the whopping headache afterwards, but he's getting used to it. His energy's coming up. So there we go. I'll be back as often as Michael chooses to allow me to come through, and I will continue to download information to him and share that with you. And hopefully this will help you have a more positive goal towards aligning yourself towards your source soul essence, which may or may not be in this timeline, but adjust your frequency. And I'll come back and keep teaching that. Michael's having a hard time hearing that because he wants to talk about action. But it's really about adjusting your frequency. And if you adjust your frequency to your highest self, that's really all that matters. And I'm going to continue to teach you how to do that. So hang on, there's a lot more teaching to come. So anyway, I'll go ahead and let Michael come back and end this video. But it's been my privilege and my honor, and I can't tell you the joy that I have being here in this timeline with you. And a lot of you I've known and taught in other timelines, and I'm really happy to see you again and experience you again, and I'm really looking forward to more connection with you. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys very soon. All right, so, holy crap. I got to be honest with you, I don't really quite know how to handle this, and I'm going to deal with that in my own time. That's not your problem. But it's as interesting for me as I hope it is for you anyway. So I'm learning more and more, but I've got the download, and I'll work to put it into my own words. I'll let Mahadeva explain it in his words, but I'll work to put it into my own words as well, because I need to do that to be able to explain it to myself. And I think that may be helpful for you as well, but we'll see. In any case, so there it is. We learned about timelines. We learned about how the birth of the soul is. We learned about what reincarnation in each linear timeline is about. And we learned that the master soul essence, as Mahadeva calls it, the source soul essence, incarnates into different timelines by jumping into different timelines. Anyway, that's pretty intense. I feel really good about it. I like that idea, and I'm going to really work towards that. And I feel really motivated now to do more mantra and more qigong to adjust my frequency to him. I really like him. And I feel me. It feels like me. You can tell he's not as judgmental as I am. He's not as impatient as I am. And, he's able to communicate things that are important to me and without all the intensity that I do. And I'm going to try and align myself to him and let more of him come through. So we'll see what happens. Everything's all the same. Lockdown.thunderwizard.com. Get on it. Thunderwizard.com. If you like this channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon channel. Courses.thunderwizard.com if you want to see all my books and everything else. Subscribe and hit the bell button here. Let's turn this channel into the premier spiritual resource on YouTube. Help me to do that by watching the channel, binge watching the videos, and share these videos. Go on to social media and share links to these videos and get more and more people to come on here. Okay? All right, I'm going to go lie down and see if I can absorb what I just heard. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.